In this exercise, our goal is to design, model, and 3D print a custom smartphone holder that can work with Rokenbok pieces. As we do the exercise, we'll be practicing 3D modeling skills in Tinkercad, including importing files, measuring, creating objects and holes, grouping objects, and exporting for printing. Before we get started, let's look at the general design for the phone holder. It's a single Rokenbok block with two tabs on top that create a clip to hold the phone in place. The exact dimensions of the tabs depend on the thickness of the phone. So let's look up the dimensions of our phone. For this demonstration, we'll use dimensions for an iPhone 5, but you should look up the dimensions for your own make and model of phone. The dimensions of the iPhone 5 are 123.8 millimeters long by 58.6 millimeters wide by 7.6 millimeters deep. Record the dimensions of your phone on your worksheet. You'll need them later. Now let's calculate the dimensions of the tabs that will hold the iPhone. Our unknown dimensions are A, the width of each of the tabs, and B, the space between them. We know the space between them is where the phone will sit, so dimension B must equal 7.6 millimeters. Therefore, the total width of the two tabs, or 2A, plus the width of the phone, B, must equal the total width of the Rokenbok block, which is 20 millimeters. So the width of each tab is 1/2 of 20 millimeters minus 7.6 millimeters, which equals 6.2 millimeters. Record that on your worksheet. There's one more thing to think about before we finalize these dimensions, and that is how tightly the phone holder will hold the phone with these dimensions. By only subtracting out the width of the phone, we have left no wiggle room for the phone to go in and out, so it may be too tight to work well. So let's decrease dimension A, the width of each of the tabs, by just 0.1 millimeters. This will create a tiny gap that will make it easier to put the phone in and take it out again. That makes each tab exactly 6.1 millimeters. And now the space between them, dimension B, has increased by 0.1 millimeters on each side. So the width between them is now 0.1 millimeters plus 7.6 millimeters plus 0.1 millimeters again, which equals 7.8 millimeters. Now we're ready to model our iPhone holder in Tinkercad. Log in to Tinkercad and create a new project. Since our design is based on the Rokenbok single block, we'll need to look up the design for the single block. The library of 3D models of Rokenbok parts is located on the Rokenbok Education website. Go to the Rokenbok online library of 3D part files. Find the design called Block for 3D Printing and click the link. On the page that appears, find the link for the STL file. Right-click and copy the link to this file. Now, go back to your Tinkercad project and use the Import tool to bring in the block. Make sure the scale field says 100% and the units are set to millimeters before you import. Now is a good time to save your project by going to the Design menu and clicking Save. Right now, the Rokenbok block is sitting on a blue grid known as the work plane. By default, new shapes you create and import will sit on the work plane. For this lesson, we'll want to create all our new shapes on or near the top of the Rokenbok block. So to make things easier, we'll move the work plane to the top of the block. In the upper right-hand corner, find the Helpers menu and click the small triangle to expand it. Select the work plane function. Now move your cursor over the top of the Rokenbok block. When the white cone under your cursor points straight up, click to set the work plane into place. Now the work plane is at the same level as the top of the Rokenbok block, so any new shapes we create will already be level with the top of the block when we place them. This will make our work a little easier. We'll also need the Ruler tool. Get the ruler from the Helpers menu and move your cursor until the red circle under it is near the left corner of the Rokenbok block and click to place it. Now let's make sure the Rokenbok block is actually lined up exactly with the ruler center. select the block, and change each distance measurement to 0 if they don't already read 0. The block will automatically move so that its corner is now on the same point as the ruler's center. Now we're ready to begin modifying the Rokenbok block and turn it into our iPhone holder. Before we create the tabs that will hold the phone, we need to fill in the hole in the top of the Rokenbok block. The hole is rectangular, and from the worksheet we know its dimensions, 12 mm long by 12 mm wide by 2 mm deep. In the right-hand menu, select Geometric and choose the box object. Place the box near the Rokenbok block. Select the box, and because we are using the ruler, you'll again see the dimensions of the box and how far it is from the center point. The dimension numbers are next to the lines with arrow tips. Click the length and width numbers and change each one to 12.0 mm. Then click the height number and change it to 2.0 mm. The box will automatically change its size. Now we need to move this box in to fill the hole. Let's move it by changing its distance dimensions. We know the edges of the hole in the Rokenbok block are 4 mm in from the outside edge, so choose the distance measurements and change each one to 4.0 mm. And because our work plane is even with the top of the Rokenbok block, we need to lower the box so the top is also even with the work plane and the block. Click the elevation dimension and change it to negative 2.0 mm. This moves the block down. Now select both objects and use the group command in the upper right of the screen to join them together. Now it's time to create one of the tabs that will hold the phone. Before we get started, let's look at our drawing again and see what shapes we'll use to make the tab. The shape of the tab looks like a box, but with one corner cut off. So our approach will be to first create the box, and then create the shape of that missing corner. Then we'll subtract the missing corner shape from the box shape. Back in Tinkercad, choose the box shape again from the Geometric menu. Place it near your other objects on the screen. Adjust the dimensions of the box based on what you calculated from your worksheet for the size of the tab. For the iPhone 5, we decided that the tab should be 20 mm long by 10 mm tall by 6.1 mm wide. We also need to move the box to be over the Rokenbok block. The bottom near left corner of the box should line up with the top near left corner of the Rokenbok block, so change each of the distance dimensions for the box to 0. Now let's model the missing corner of the tab according to our design. The missing corner is in the shape of a triangular wedge, so in the Geometric menu, choose the wedge shape. Place it near your other objects. The wedge, as it comes out of the toolbox, isn't facing the right way. Let's turn it. Choose the curved double arrow at the corner and move it to the right. To make things easier, hold the Shift key while you do so. This limits the rotation to increments of 45 degrees. Look at the degree measurement showing the rotation and turn the wedge until that measurement shows 90 degrees. Now choose the next curved double arrow and again turn the entire wedge until the degree dimension says 90 degrees. The diagonal side of the wedge should now be facing down and left. Let's change the dimensions of the wedge according to our design. We know the horizontal and vertical sides of the missing corner are each 1.0 mm long. Click the dimension number for each side and change them to 1.0 mm. Now we need to move this missing corner shape into place. We know the width of the box shape is 6.1 mm, and the width of the corner shape is 1.0 mm. So the corner shape will be 6.1 minus 1.0 mm away from the edge of that box, or 5.1 mm. Change that distance dimension to 5.1 mm. We also need to move this shape up to be level with the top of the tab. We know the top of the tab is 10 mm above the work plane, and the height of the missing corner is 1 mm, so its height from the center point is 10 millimeters minus 1 millimeter, equaling 9 millimeters. Change the vertical distance value to 9. Change the remaining distance value to 0. The wedge shape should now be overlapping with the box. We need to subtract the corner wedge shape from the box shape to create the final shape of our tab. To do that, first select the wedge shape. In the inspector window, choose the option called Hole. Choosing Hole tells Tinkercad that you want to treat this shape as empty space, also known as negative space. Select both the box shape and the empty corner shape by holding the Shift key and clicking each one. In the upper right, click Group. Tinkercad now subtracts the wedge shape from the box shape. Now we've created one of our tab shapes. Let's create the second tab. Rather than repeat everything we just did, let's copy it and save some time. Use the copy and paste commands in the Edit menu to create a copy and drag the copy out of the way to keep things clear. This new wedge is the right shape, but it's facing the wrong way and it isn't in the right place. Let's rotate it first. Select the shape, then choose the rotation arrow at the corner and turn it 180 degrees. Now let's move it into place according to our design. Looking at our worksheet, let's figure out how far this wedge is from the left edge of the Rokenbok block, where the center of our ruler is located. The distance equals the width of the first tab, 6.1 millimeters, plus the width of the space for the phone, 7.8 millimeters, which equals 13.9 millimeters. Click the tab shape and change its distance measurement to 13.9 millimeters. Change the other measurements to 0. The tab should now be in place. All the pieces are now lined up. Time to join them together. Select and group all the objects to fuse them into one. Now that the model is complete, save your work in the Design menu. We're ready to download our model. In the Design menu, choose Download for 3D Printing. In the menu that appears, choose .stl or the file type that works best for the 3D printer you will use. The file will download to your computer. After you've printed your model, test it out. Does your phone fit the holder? Does the holder grip the phone tightly, or is it too loose? Can the phone slide back and forth, or is it held in place? If you were to improve this design, what would you change? Put your answers on your worksheet. Congratulations, you've completed this lesson. Let's quickly review some of the skills that you practiced. You practiced locating files on the Rokenbok Education website and importing them into Tinkercad. In Tinkercad, you practiced moving your work plane and using the ruler. You practiced creating shapes and adjusting their dimensions and placement using numerical values. You practiced turning shapes into holes, and you practiced grouping to subtract holes from shapes. You practiced exporting your file. After printing it, you practiced testing it and thinking about how to improve the design.